Yes, I already made this video, shut up, but I wanted to remake it because I still wasn't saying everything that I was thinking. I just want to go even more in depth. So to start with the basics, I've already made a couple of Titanfall 3 related videos, just kind of going over the new game modes in Titanfall 2, some of the cryptic things found in the patch notes for Apex Legends, but I've never really delved into my own personal take on the whole Titanfall 3 spiel. So I have mentioned that I think now is the perfect time for a Titanfall 3 to happen, and I do stand by this. Apex Legends is rapidly losing players. The two competing franchises, Call of Duty and Battlefield, which gave Titanfall 2 a hard time at launch, both of those franchises are crumbling right now. I think movement shooters in general have seen a resurgence in popularity over the past few years, and the same applies for mech-based games as well. Armored Core 6 released this year and was a huge success, so that's proof right there that people are still interested and enjoy playing mech-based games. So I do stand by the idea that if EA and Respawn wanted to make a Titanfall 3, now is the time. That said, just because now is a very good time to release this game, it doesn't mean that they should. Video games, especially in the online FPS genre, have changed drastically since 2016 when Titanfall 2 was released. Not so much in their concepts, but where the values of their publishers are. Of course, game publishers since the dawn of video games have been after money. That's just how it works. That's how it's always worked. But up until recently, there was at least some passion put into the project itself. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that the ideology back then was, hey, maybe if we make a quality video game that is really good, people will go, wow, this game is really good, go and buy it. And then people will go and buy that game. But over the years, the only way I can describe it is like publishers getting really big egos, if that makes any sense. It's no longer, let's make really great games that people will enjoy and that will lead to further sales. Now it's, everybody already knows who we are, so no matter what we put out, we're going to be making money. And then of course that evolves into quantity over quality. It seems now there's more effort being put into the $30 cosmetics in the battle pass than there is the actual game itself. A lot of these games like Call of Duty, Apex, even Battlefield, it's sort of turned into the equivalent of the small play place in an IKEA versus the rest of IKEA, which is a store. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind certain microtransactions in games. Like, I certainly didn't mind paying $3 to put bacon on my gun in COD Ghosts, but it was just such an insignificant thing. But now, big publishers like EA and Activision have us strapped down like a weird night in Amsterdam, and it's like they're trying to force feed us this stuff. And because they're in such a big rush to make money now, they're working these poor developers to the bone, and we end up getting these unfinished, buggy messes. So my concern is if they end up making a Titanfall 3, it's going to be one of those situations where they've seen that Apex's player base had plateaued and now it's starting to dip. So now they're in a rush to get something that they know people are going to eat up. I just don't want them to see this as easy money, but see it as a game worth making and putting effort into. But I know that that's a pretty tall order in 2023. What I do have a lot of trust in, though, assuming this game is a thing, is the single player, if it has one. I finished Titanfall 2's campaign for the first time the other week, and I have never been so upset in my life that a game has gotten a sequel canceled. Respawn had been developing Titanfall 3's single-player experience for 10 months before it was canceled so they could move on to Apex Legends. And honestly, again, if they do want to make a Titanfall 3, I think that's where the silver lining sits. That is 10 months of development. I imagine they have a lot of ideas about where they want to go with the story long before they actually start developing the game. In fact, I'm sure that they had the entire concept for Titanfall 3's story as they were making Titanfall 2. So this was 10 whole months of a game being worked on by people who were genuinely passionate about the game they were making. So the optimism in me hopes that if EA decides to revive Titanfall 3, the team in charge of developing the single-player experience will handle it with just as much care and passion as the previous devs did. And honestly, if my faith is to be put into anything about games these days, it's the single-player experiences. For example, say what you want about Call of Duty, but in my opinion, the campaigns even now don't miss. To be fair, though, it's worth mentioning that I'm pretty easy to please, but I feel like even a company as greedy and blind as EA would know that the Titanfall 2 script is actually the real-life holy grail. So in my opinion, rather than make a whole new game and potentially crush the near-flawless legacy that Titanfall 2 has left on the world, I'd be more than happy to see resumed support for Titanfall 2 to really bring it back to life. I mean, hell, if they want to charge $30, $50, $70, $600 for this thing, I'll fastball my wallet at them, fucking send them into the Shadow Realm. They could just add a bunch of new maps, maybe all the Titanfall 1 maps, a bunch of new weapons, maybe some new Titans, new game modes. Hell, they could upgrade it to Source Engine 2 for a little visual overhaul. As long as the movement stays exactly the same, don't ever touch it, please. So, all in all, it's a conflicting feeling for me. From a single-player perspective, yes, Titanfall 3 or a story add-on to Titanfall 2 needs to happen, or else I will lose my mind. But I hope that if a third game happens, the multiplayer stays true to Titanfall's identity and not Apex's. If Respawn has been sitting here watching its biggest competition, Call of Duty and Battlefield, crumble in front of them, all sitting there mischievously, stroking cats on their laps like the villain from Inspector Gadget, just knowing that they could drop the hardest beat of all time on us right now and just save FPS games for the next 20 years. It's a game of wait and see, my friends. This month is the 7th anniversary of Titanfall 2. Respawn has been very cryptic. They're absolutely planning something, so hopefully we get some closure at the very least. I'd love to know what everybody thinks about the whole situation. Do you think that if Titanfall 3 happens, it will live up to the standard that Titanfall 2 set for it? Start some discussions. I love reading them. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. We're also very close to 3,000 subscribers, so if you can make that happen, I will love you forever. Thank you so much for watching. Take it easy. I'll see you in the next one.